5 young men who are in an introductory community design studio. This is a place where we teach future landscape architects and community designers things like what are housing typologies, how do you put them together in a community, what are streets, what are parks and open space, how do all of those physical things combine with people to make a place. And it's about place, and it's about making place, and that's, I think, one of the issues that we recognize here in Taylor's is there's just a sense of placelessness that's exacerbated by what's happened out in Wade Hampton and what's not happened here in the middle of your town. So we're thrilled to have the opportunity to work with the Greenville County Planning Office and try to get some ideas generated from these students. We spent the first half of our semester learning about those components of communities, the physical components of communities and then the social components. And we created an analysis. It's our research that we put together before we actually start any kind of design process. And right now the students are taking what they learned in their research, what they learned from what the county planners have put together in their research of you. There were 3 meetings, at least 3 meetings, I guess, that have been held so far. And our job is to come up with ideas that respond to those ideas that you generated. So today, we're going to show you a little bit about our research. It's only going to take a couple of minutes today. We're just at the beginning of the design process where we'll be putting the ideas into place. Those will be ready near the end of November, and we're going to invite everybody to come and see what they're up to on November 22nd in Clemson. We'll get with Alex and publish the information where you can come and actually give some input before the students finish the project. And they'll take your ideas and try to see if those fit with their concepts, and then their final presentations will be on December 4th or 6th, guys. When is it? Do you remember? 4th, December 4th. And that's when they'll be basically showing off what they've learned and what using Taylor's as their guinea pig. But we're hoping that there'll be some great ideas that are generated that will go forward. So Alignments, just briefly, is a studio that works with our teaching studios, and then when a community design class or site design class is finished with what they're doing, I have some graduate students who work with me, and we take the projects and refine those projects, and they go back to whoever our client is. The projects have been done in 33 communities around the state of South Carolina over the past 5 years, so we're real excited to be in Taylor's. It's our first time here, and we love it. So, Chad, and who else is presenting right now? Brandon, on up. Tell us who you are.
Hi everybody, I'm Brandon Green. I'm from a small town, sort of like this, in Chester, South Carolina, which is about an hour away. But to give you an idea, we've been doing research as Professor has told us for the entire semester. And to start off the display of research, start from the beginning, where the history of Taylor's came from. So as you can see on the bottom of these boards are going to be a history timeline that goes from the history of Taylor's ever since 1840 when Chick Springs Resort was built up until present day, all the major events that have happened in this community. The other thing, another part that we've looked at very closely is the zoning of Taylor's and figuring out what can be built well, what's the conditions of all the land use regulations out here. As you can see from this map, the red is the commercial, like all the commercial use and everything. As you can see, it's mostly along Wade Hampton. And then once you get to Main Street, it's more the green, more the residential, this green color so this is your residential area, and we're just kind of, since we're a studio that's looking at this, we're learning what these different things can mean and what we can do with this type of land and everything. So here's the next thing we looked at was the civic and public spaces. And as you can see from this really large map, that has 3 circles on it, and those 3 circles represent the smallest being the quarter of a mile. And actually, our center point of the circle is where you're at right now. It's right here at the church in this area that's in the center of Main Street. And it's a quarter of a mile, and we have what the parks, the schools, the different things labeled within that quarter mile. and then the next circle is the half mile, and the final circle is the mile from this area. A quarter of a mile is about what you'll walk to. Half a mile, maybe you'll walk to it, a mile you're going to drive. As you can see, the greens, parks, also the schools on here, there's different public spaces. As we're kind of just seeing what was within your community, what's within your community here. So, also we looked at land tenure, which is for a very simple definition, who owns the land. And the yellow in this map represents the ownership, the person that lives there is the owner of the land. The green is rentalship, so that most of your community is rented. And then the really light green is the vacant area. So vacant is not as popular as you may think, actually. And then one of the other things we looked at was the demographics of the community, which demographics are any of the statistics, and we kind of broke it down into three main graphs here. The population as an ethnicity, and seeing how that breaks down in the community. Also the population by age, and finally the household income of the average household income of the community. So, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Chad from here.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm from a little small town called Camden, South Carolina, big horse racing country. So I see one hand over here. Yes. Brandon looked at a lot of the built environment, and this was not just us, but we have a whole studio that spent a long time looking at this information and charting it and putting it on graphs so we could all understand it. Brandon's presentation was a lot on the built environment, what was built in Taylor's. This is a little bit more as the natural environment, what's here naturally. This first graph shows two things. Number one is the watershed. So we have the Enoree River, which runs through Taylor's. And so that's the graph on the right, your left. The graph on my right is topography. And so how does the slope look in Taylor's? Is it on a mountain? Taylor's is actually relatively pretty flat because it's been built. There's a lot of paved surfaces to Taylor's. So that's what we're looking at here. This second board looks at geology, soils, and climate. As you're all from Taylor's, the climate is pretty self-explanatory. It's a pretty comfortable place to live. And then we looked at geology, so what rock types were in Taylor's. And then finally we looked at ecology, so what plant and animal life is in Taylor's, what's endangered, what's really unique to Taylor's. We have an endangered bat and an endangered cougar that live in Taylor's, which are very special to this community. And then finally, this is probably one of the most important graphs we looked at. This really shows a lot of the great things in Taylor's. If we look at the graph on the right, we're showing buildings and where buildings are in the dark, and the gray is parking. And on the right, we show all of the kind of connectivity throughout Taylor's. So we have two railroad tracks that are both active in Taylor's, which is a really cool, a really nice asset to have. And then we looked at roads, and there's really a lot going on here that's beneficial to Taylor's. We also looked at a bus route that runs from the end of Main Street into kind of a subdivision community type thing. I'm going to turn it back over to Professor McCulley.
The very last slide that we have is actually from the Greenville County Planning Office. It was generated from the information that folks in the community gave to the county when they had the public planning there. It shows the priorities here about where, if you had $100, you'd spend your $100 in Taylor's. So the students have been looking at some of these priorities as well. They'll take other input that the county has put together and base some of their design decisions on this. I have a pen here, and there's a pad right up here. If you have ideas or anything, we're inviting you to please come up and write on them. There's a map of Taylor's here, and let me tell you a little bit how the students are going to work. They're broken into 3 groups, and one group is going to look at the Wade Hampton corridor and the idea of rapid transit along that corridor that may be here in 20, 25 years. Another group is looking at Main Street in the residential area, and another group is looking primarily at the mill and the connections from the mill to the open space and the potential for a greenway that might run near the Enoree River. Folks have been looking at those things. So we'll have three different sets of ideas for each one of these areas, and hopefully there'll be some things that will get you all excited about Taylor's. There's also some sticky notes up here. If you would write some information or correction or things you want us to know, please add it to this. Just stick it right to the map if it's location oriented, or chat with some of the students here and give them some ideas afterwards too. We'll stick around for another 20-30 minutes after the meeting. Thank you.
No, well, before you're done, would you mind, we met a couple of your students. Can we meet the other two?
Sure. There's 3, I think.
Oh,
There's
three.
5 and all.
Hey, I'm Evan Lawson. I'm from Spartanburg, South Carolina, so right up the road from you guys.
My name is John Good. I'm from York, South Carolina, which is in the Rock Hill area.
My name is Coker Plowden, and I'm from King Street, South Carolina, which is in the Northern State.
Before I let them go, I do have, so just a little bit more information about what you're doing, and then we'll turn it back over. We'll let people. You're writing some things. So basically, the information you're gathering here is for a design project that your all's class is working on through the course of the semester. But a lot of this is a lot of the information that will be turned over to the Greenville County Planning Commission to then further work to build the plan out of, taking this and other information that they've gathered into consideration. Is that kind of a correct?
Absolutely. Spot on.
Perfect. Now you had mentioned you've worked in Greenville County before, and maybe what does that process typically look like with what you're doing? How it ends up relating to a final plan or process? If you don't mind speaking to that.
Not at all. I think one of the most recent projects that we've had in this area was with the Poe Mill community that's on the other side of town. We worked with the Greenville County Development Authority there. The mill has been gone for a number of years, and they have an 11-acre site that where the mill once stood, and actually a pair of twin towers that are stunning. We worked with them on a park design for the community, and then also looked at ideas for creative infill, other ideas to regenerate the community, streetscapes, gateways, those kinds of things. Students will be looking at the same thing for Taylor's. And then those plans went back to the Redevelopment Authority. They've actually used those plans to get grants, and they have garnered the money to be able to clean up the mill site now, and the park is going to move forward. And they use the students' pretty pictures and ideas to get it rolling.
Perfect. So basically, you all can kind of act as a catalyst, maybe to get some things going. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
I think it's a catalyst, and it's a chance for the community to come together. I think a lot of what this does is build capacity within communities, and this town meeting you all have is fantastic, because most communities don't have this kind of participation in these things, and it doesn't happen without people.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Let's give them a hand and give Keith a hand as well. We'll end a couple minutes early because I know they love to get some of your feedback. We'll send out a full write-up of our meeting notes. If we've got your email address, the way you can do that is if you sign in and just give us your email. We promise we will not send you email all the time, just stuff when important things that come along. We try to group things together. So please come give these guys some feedback. Come talk to these guys. Come talk to Keith. Come talk to anybody. Chad about the community farmers market meeting next week. Is that not? Yes. Anything else going on? We'll be happy. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question about the maps?
Yes.
Taylor's is defined either as a census designated place or as a fire district, where basically it looks like a giant butterfly and Wade Hampton cuts through. What I saw on your maps was half of the butterfly. Where's the other half?
Well, what we were looking at were really the census designated area that was provided by the county for us. This is the area that they're looking at. And Tom, you may want to speak to this more here. So initially, this is just the core of the issue. Students aren't even looking at that much. We're really concentrating on the Wade Hampton corridor from Main Street entry to Main Street entry, the Main Street corridor, and then the mill up there. So that's what the students are concentrating on.
Yes, if you have any further questions about that sort of thing, maybe some of the reasoning behind that, I see Tom nodding his head at me. Tom will be more than happy to speak to some of that. And yes, any other questions from these guys before we? Yes, sir.
Apart from today, how do we get information or suggestions?
Sure. That's I apologize, sir.
Alex, would you add to the funnel?
Sure, yes. We can, you can send, my email address is on the Taylorstown School website. We'll go through in the meeting notes and we'll post something about that. The meeting notes, you can expect to see those on the website today or probably more than likely tomorrow. I just said today and then I saw Caitlin kind of look up at me with a scared face back there. But that will be more than likely tomorrow. We'll have that up. But sir, we'll be sure to have my email there and then I can forward that on to Mary Beth. No problem at all. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much. As I said, it sounds like there's all sorts of things we can come and do from this, and it sounds like all sorts of cool times. Please stick around, make some comments, meet some people, and we hope you all have a great, great afternoon. We'll see you on December the, whatever the date is on the flyer, 8th.